Welcome back to another OMLab tutorial. Today we're going to be taking a look at, well, or maybe not taking a look at, but getting a clear understanding of buses and sends and auxiliary tracks and how it all works, how you bring it all together, what it all means, and how to do it properly. And this is just such an easy, simple topic. We're not going to complicate things by even including audio. It really is that simple. So, in our tradition of just finding the easiest way to break things down for you, we're going to open up our mixer here in Logic Pro. Don't worry if you're not using Logic Pro. Basically, all DAWs have the same bells and whistles under the hood. Sure, the navigation, the interface, some menu options might be different, but the capabilities are largely the same. If you don't find what you're looking for in the same areas that we're dabbling in here, make sure you're right-clicking and maybe even run a Google search if you can't find it after looking for a couple of minutes. So we're going to break down first exactly what a send is and what a bus is and what is an auxiliary track. Okay, so we'll just zoom in here and you can see this send area here. It's got this little blank spot and a blank knob next to it, and that's just unique to Logic. But the idea and the concept is the same from DAW to DAW. Okay, so you start with the option of having a send in place. We're going to go ahead and click this. We'll come down here to bus, and as soon as we come over here to, and you can pick any bus, but we're going to pick bus 1. As soon as you pick a bus, it's automatically going to create an auxiliary channel. Okay, right there in that one moment in time, you just ran through send, bus, and auxiliary all at once. And here's how it works. You send an audio signal from a track to a bus, and then the bus is then routed into an auxiliary track. You can see here, this is the input, and the input is set to bus 1. Okay. Now this audio file has its own input, and it's still being output to the stereo channel, so this send to this bus is a secondary output, basically. Okay. And again, it's going directly into this auxiliary track. Now, couple of things to be aware of, and don't be embarrassed if you don't know this if you're someone just starting out, but you do need to actually send a certain amount of the signal to that bus for it to actually make its way to this auxiliary track. Now, are buses used just to send audio signals to an auxiliary track? No, actually, they can be used as a routing option to move your audio signal from, say, this track right here into a sidechain input of a plugin on a different track in the same project. Okay, so a bus is simply a way to move audio signals from point A to point B, or to point B, C, D, E, and F. And the send is just the point at which you're allowing audio to leave that track and be routed somewhere else. Okay. Now, so we've just mentioned that you do need to send some of that audio signal, so that's what this dial is here for. And if you're following along using Logic Pro, you might notice that number 1, my knob is on the right hand side and not on the left hand side of this button, and that it's highlighted with a green color rather than a blue color, and this might be different than yours. And there's a reason for that, and that's exactly what we're talking about today. The biggest thing to understand about routing signals and using buses is how is your send set up. Okay, and you have 3 main options in modern DAWs. And we're going to start down here with the first one, pre-fader. We'll move to post-fader, then post-pan. Okay, so pre-fader, let's talk about that really quick. We're going to click on that, and all of a sudden you see that this color changed to like a light blue, and the knob is now all of a sudden on the left-hand side. So Logic does a good job of differentiating its modes visually for you. So you can, at a glance, know exactly how each send is set up to the individual buses that you're routing to. It's brilliant. So what does it actually mean? So pre-fader mode means that you are sending an audio signal from this track to a bus, and that you're sending that signal pre-fader, which means your fader could be down at -20 decibels, or at -4 decibels, or +4 decibels, or completely off. It's only this dial that really matters. Okay, this is what is controlling the amount of audio that's being sent to that bus. Okay, so we'll just get our fader back up there to the top, and let's switch to post fader. Now post fader, and you'll notice that again it's on the right hand side of the button now, this knob, and it's still the same color. So if you look at these options, pan, fader, and fader, you now know that blue stands for a fader mode. Okay, this is pre on the left and post on the right, and this simply means that your audio is flowing basically through this fader first, and then it comes up here, okay, and then this knob is taken into consideration. So let's just say that your fader is set at -4 decibels. Well, if your send knob is at exactly 0 decibels, that means that you are sending -4 decibels of this signal out to that bus. Okay, and if this was set to say -2 decibels here, then you're going to be sending -6 decibels total to that bus. So this is relative to what is set here on your fader first. Okay, so the flow of pre-fader is just direct. It doesn't ever come down here. It's never routed through the fader before it goes out to the bus. Okay, signal comes in from your instrument and goes directly out the bus. Okay, if it is post fader, it comes in through the input, comes down through the fader, comes up, and then out to the bus. Okay, now this last one is really important. Now the reason why you might want to use these things are many. Actually, there are many reasons. But it's really important to know that if you've had your send set up in these fader modes while you're dialing something in, say reverb. It's quite common for me to set up a send to a bus, which is then sent to an auxiliary channel, all pre-fader. I will take the fader all the way down on the original audio. I'll stick a reverb on my auxiliary track and listen to just the wet signal of that reverb while I'm setting it up. This allows me to maintain total control over exactly what I'm working on, and it allows me to hear just the wet signal of the reverb, which is really important while creating it. But what's even more important is that once I'm done with all of that, that I come back over here and I change this to post pan. Okay, now post pan means that it's going to go through the audio signal. It's going to go through this pan knob and its settings before it gets sent out. Now this is really important, okay, because you could have many tracks in one project all going out, being sent to the same bus. Okay, now if you spend all of this time perfectly positioning your sounds in the stereo field with your pan knob on each track, and then you send it all in any mode other than post pan, everything's right back in the middle of that stereo field again. So now all of a sudden that reverb or compression or whatever it is that you've got set up on that auxiliary track, gosh, you're having a frequency war there. There's no room for anything because everything's in the same exact spot in the stereo field. So or a space war, not a frequency war, my bad. So making sure that this is then set to post pan is going to take the pan position of each track into consideration as it's being routed through that bus to that auxiliary channel. Okay, so if you have something panned hard left, it's going to be panned hard left on that auxiliary channel in the overall mix of tracks being sent to that auxiliary channel. So that's it. You send audio to a bus and the bus routes it somewhere, whether it's going to be used as an input in an auxiliary track, or if it's just going to be used as a bus. You throw your sound inside of a bus and you send it on a trip on down to, say, like a side chain input or something on a plugin. Pre-fader means that the signal is going directly from your input out to that bus prior to even acknowledging how the fader has been set up on that track. Post fader means that the audio signal is going to come through, it's going to route, it's going to acknowledge the position of the volume fader, and then it's going to go out to the bus. And lastly, post pan, which is the preferable option for your final stage of mixing, and that takes into consideration the pan position of each track before it's sent out to that bus. All right, so hope that made a lot of sense. Hope it cleared some things up for you. whether you're brand new at all of this or been doing it for years, this can be a very enlightening moment. It can really make for a much cleaner mix using that post pan option. You can gain total control over the work that you're doing in auxiliary tracks by using both of those fader modes. So yeah, we hope this helped. We hope it made sense. We hope you can put it to good use in your next project. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you again soon. Cheers.